A banshee is a ghost-like creature that is associated with death and nasty screams, but it is also the name of a record-holding inverted coaster. Such a coaster with a theme like this could only be the successor of an even wilder beast. This innovative coaster offers a one-of-a-kind experience. This video is going to be my full review of Banshee. Let's get into it. Banshee is located at Kings Island in Mason, Ohio. It was manufactured by Bolliger & Mabillard, B&M for short, as an inverted coaster. It would cost a total of $24 million to build, and the coaster would open in 2016 in the former plot of a monstrous coaster. This monster was none other than the Son of Beast. To understand the full story of Banshee, we must take a dive into the past, all the way back to the days of the Son of Beast. Son of Beast was one of the biggest wooden roller coasters out there. Its plot of land was enormous, and it would also feature a vertical loop, something that was never seen on a wooden coaster and still hasn't been seen. Even though this was the baddest coaster around, it was plagued with problem after problem, leading to its closure in 2009 and demolition in 2012. What could replace such a ride? One that shattered records, one that was too big for its own good. Cedar Fair would come up with, alongside B&M, one of the world's biggest and baddest inverted coasters. This coaster would be known as Banshee, and it would be the official replacement of Son of Beast. Within this coaster, there are many tributes to its predecessor. From the name to the theme, it all goes back to Son of Beast. Banshee, as I already said, is a ghost-like creature associated with death. It fits this scenario perfectly. The Son of Beast died, and the area is now haunted by a Banshee. This inverted coaster literally stands on a fraction of the plot of land that Son of Beast used to call home. That's just crazy to think about when you see the size of Banshee. Outside the entrance, there is a massive sign with the Banshee logo. There is a nice mist effect around it as well. Moving into the queue, there is some minor theming to a cemetery. A couple of tombstones haunt the area. Among these is one for the Son of Beast that features an eternal flame, showing it will never be forgotten. The rest of the queue is switchbacks with colored tarps to fit the coaster colors. The station continues the cemetery vibe. It is made to look like a gothic church that is haunted, and the coaster has a really nice color scheme to go along with all this theming. Banshee has a hot pink colored track and deep purple supports. In the station, riders would board the 8-row trains that seat 4 across. This made a capacity of 32 riders per train. Banshee runs 3 trains on the track. This creates an hourly capacity of 1,650 riders according to RCDB. Although, I have to say that I think it's actually more. Or the crew is just amazing. It always seems like Banshee has a smaller line than many other coasters in the park. Even when it does have a big line, it's always moving. I've waited where the line was around half full, and the wait was about an hour. Not many coasters can say they move the line that quickly, especially one as big as Banshee. There is one major downside to these trains though. Most B&M inverts feature over-the-shoulder restraints. They were hard and left a little bit of room for the rider to move. The restraints featured on Banshee are the same as those found on B&M wing, dive, and flying coasters, the notorious vest restraints. These restraints use a vest-like apparatus to hold riders in place, with 2 bigger metal bars and a hard block holding the harness in place. This creates a problem and solution for the very intense ride. In other words, the harder over-the-shoulder restraints cause a little bit of head banging. Couple that with an intense ride and you get head injuries and complaints from guests. However, as you fly through the layout, these vest restraints tend to tighten, making all the forces feel like nothing. Once we get into the layout, you will really see what you're missing with these restraints. And with that, let's dive right into it. The layout begins with a turn out of the station into the lift hill. This takes you to the tallest point of the ride, standing at 167 feet tall. At the top, when the train passes over a sensor, a Banshee scream goes off. It's fairly loud and can be heard from the surrounding areas of the park. This sends you to the first drop and brings you to the max speed of 68 miles per hour. This drop pretty much does a 180 as a twisting drop. No traditional B&M pre-drop here. There is a good amount of whip over it if you are near the back row. This will be a common theme throughout the ride. Alright, the first drop takes you into the first of 7 inversions. This is a dive loop that goes right up to the main entrance. Following that comes a pretty intense vertical loop wrapping around the lift hill. Then comes a snappy 0G roll that drops down further and stays with the terrain. By this point, I find the restraints to have come down due to the excessive force on those elements, especially the first drop and the exit out of the 0G roll. But the worst is yet to come. The train then enters one of the more unique inversions on the roller coaster, a Pretzel Knot. This consists of a dive loop followed by an Immelman that exits under the previous track segment. This is also very intense. At the bottom of the element, it's common to feel like your legs are going to be torn off. This force also causes those restraints to lower just a bit. Coming out of this inversion, the train enters the second vertical loop. This one is a lot smaller and a lot more intense compared to the first one. After this inversion, you enter an upward helix that slows the train down a good amount. It's a pretty big pacing change as you know the coaster is nearing the end. But Banshee has one more trick up its sleeve, and I think this is arguably one of the best moments on the ride. At this point in the layout, the coaster has lost a lot of speed and is a good distance from the station. So what is a really powerful way to end the ride? A long, slow heartline roll. Coming out of the helix, the train crawls through the 7th and final inversion. I said this was the best part of the ride, but what if the restraints were traditional? The inversion would be elite instead of great. Nonetheless, it delivers some great hang time. And then to end it all off, there is a super intense downward helix that I sometimes have grayouts on. This leads into the final brake run. Going back to what I said about the operations of this coaster, I said the crew always seems to be pumping out trains. You might have noticed that Banshee does not feature a mid-course brake run, like most other inverts out there, that allows more trains on the track at one time. This results in all 3 trains catching up to one another. While one is on the track, one is leaving or in the station, and the other is on the brakes or just entering the station. This movement must be maintained to keep the coaster running at full capacity, which may be the reason why the operations are some of the best in the park. Even with the world-class layout, there are still some flaws. I've already mentioned the restraints. I will point out that there is a bathroom right across the exit in case you feel the urge to release fluids. It's kinda crazy to think that the restraints can squeeze you that much, but it's happened to me before. I also wanted to mention another minor downside to the coaster. As the years have progressed, the ride has started to develop a rattle. Banshee is going on 5 years, and it is more noticeable than some inverts that have been operating for 20. I think this goes back to the restraints and intensity. As you're locked tighter to the train, there is less leeway for the body to move, making the rattle more noticeable. That's my theory. Then again, this does not ruin the ride, as it is more than bearable. I just hope it does not get ridiculously rough as time goes on. Coming from that, I'm going to share what I think is the best seat. For me, an outside seat delivers more force, but the rattle is a little bit more noticeable. And of course, the back is where it's at. Again, the rattle is a little more noticeable back there, but the difference in force is worth it. Banshee is one of the biggest inverted roller coasters out there. Kings Island would not be able to replace a record holder with a small ride. This caused Banshee to hold a couple of records itself. These consist of longest inverted coaster in the world with a track length of 4,124 feet. Banshee has a duration of 2 minutes and 40 seconds. It's also tied for the most inversions on an inverted roller coaster with 7. The only other is Montu at Busch Gardens, Tampa Bay. Funny enough, Montu is one of the only inverted roller coasters out there that I think is equivalent or better than Banshee. So how does Banshee stand up to the other inverts out there? Well, as I just said, it's very close with Montu. Another coaster that is close to is Raptor at Cedar Point. All 3 of these coasters are highly considered among the best inverted coasters. In my Montu review, I mentioned that it was able to edge out Banshee. This was mainly due to the restraints. Montu is generally able to deliver a more forceful but also free-moving experience. Because Banshee has those vest restraints, it's not able to deliver the same experience. But I would probably put it above Raptor. Banshee features a lot better stats. It's taller, longer, faster, and has an additional inversion. I know you're not supposed to rank rides based on stats, but sometimes it's just able to outperform the opponent. And just from my personal experiences, Banshee wins the battle for me. So a solid 2nd place inverted coaster. For the most part, people tend to prefer older B&M coasters. It can't really be applied for Banshee. Yeah, their new restraints are a big downfall for the coaster. But other than that, the coaster is amazing. The new profile of the twisting drop I find to be superior. And overall, Banshee is a super fun ride that I always hit up when I'm at Kings Island. So based on everything, Banshee gets a 9 out of 10 from me. Only coasters that are considered perfect can get a 10 out of 10. The only thing I had to deduct a half a point for was the restraints. Yes, they are bearable, but imagine what the coaster would be like with the traditional ones. Now that is an experience that would top many ranking lists. So that does it for my review of Banshee at Kings Island. What do you think of this inverted coaster? Let me know in the comments below. If you liked the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you're new. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.